Okay, I am running a little bit, let's say, different this week. A lot of things on my plate, no rest for the wicked, and I've got a wicked side in me periodically. The thing, it's Wednesday, and you know, I've got so many things going. I'm sort of like got two households that I'm looking after right at the moment. Keeps me busy, and that's just the way it is. So I was tied up for the first part of this week, and it's Wednesday, and I'm finally getting on. And I really wanted to talk about it because there's quite a number of things transpiring this week that I think would be good for all of us to be aware of. One, of course, is the fact that the sun's going into Aquarius on the 20th. So in a couple of days. That's Wednesday, so Friday. Sun's going into Aquarius. And then on Saturday, new moon at 1 degree of Aquarius. Uh, Time to set your intentions. It'd be good to maybe give just a slight flavoring for what potentials are on the table for the Aquarius archetype that a part of that Aquarian part of us is basically being invited to tune into for the next month. Uh, Here are some uh, basic, archetypal flavors for Aquarius: genius, humanitarian, inventor, freedom fighter, reformer, scientist, and sage. One thing that I'm an Aquarius. At least the sun's in Aquarius and the moon's in Aquarius and the Mars and the Mercury are in Aquarius and my ascendant's in Aquarius. So I've got a little bit of Aquarius there. The the leaning that I have a tendency to focus on whenever the Aquarian archetype is put on the table is that the matters of you know things going on and on and on, ad nauseum is not really an Aquarius high point, because Aquarius is about the process of innovation, trying to, you know, think, be out of the box, because who's got time for those thinking box anyway? There, the containment that other aspects of human, we'll call them foibles, lean in toward is to control things, try to make things fit within the parameters of certain, particular things that will assist in being able to control us. Well, Aquarius has got no time for control. And the reason why is because, the energy of the group, this is another Aquarius thing, would grow old and stagnate if it continued on a repetitive process that was the same, the same old bullshit all the time. Oh no, I haven't got time for that. There's there's a there's an excitement in the air always, if you're willing to tune into it, which doesn't necessarily always mean that it's going to be comfortable. Oh no, hardly the case. But in being able to, ask those questions of those you interact with all the time, why is that the case? What makes that so relevant? And might there be alternatives to what it is that we're chatting about here that are going to, leap to the surface of the pile, so to speak, and say, hey, what about me? What about going on this other path? I think of that Robert Frost poem about a path going in two different ways in the wood, and which would you take? Well, of course, in Aquarius, I'm going to take the one less traveled, because everybody else is going on that one that's most traveled, because it's predictable. You know, why would you want to live a life that's predictable? The adventures of being on planet Earth, being a soul incarnate in human form is to be experimental. Test all the different waters that you find yourself involved in. Stir the pot, stir the cauldron, stir the experiences of life that you're involved in so that they don't become stagnant. So today is the 18th. Let's take a look at our chart. See what the heck's going on. I know that on today, the sun comes into contact with Pluto right up here, 28 degrees of Capricorn. And the sun is our vitality. It's that energy spark, that drive to really to be, to actually instill some sort of life into the process of experience. And dancing with Pluto up there in Capricorn. Pluto, the planet that, back along the way, it got demoted to a dwarf planet. Actually, the scientists, and there were only a few available when they made this vote, wanted to, remove it from the planetary syndrome system completely. And Pluto, I can see it kind of, rubbing its chin and contemplating, who are these idiots that would think that Pluto, the planet of the most intense, potent, transformational energy of all the planets in our entire zodiac, is really going to sit around and say, oh yeah, take me out of the equation? Not a chance. No, Pluto's it's a kind of transformation, day to night, caterpillar to butterfly. Everything is transposed so that something new can find a presence. That's the Plutonian energy. So this life vitality of the sun dancing with Pluto right now is saying, might there be in this moment an energy signature that within your world, our world, might need some transformation? Might there be things that have lost their relevance, to hold our interest or contain the possibilities of what's ahead for us? And the sun dancing with Pluto right now in Capricorn is saying, this is in the arena, the Capricorn arena of, what does governance mean? What is the ideal form of support that the general populace would do well or best with? This is not always how Capricorn leadership and rulership leans into, because they want to control things. And, to a certain extent, some control is, it's required. But over controlling, which is, I think if you really look at the scenario of humanity, at least in the Western culture, we have attempted to over control our footprint on planet Earth to the point where we really aren't paying that much attention to how deep are the imprints of our feet upon this one planet that we have in our care. Is that question asked enough? I'm not thinking so. There are some of us who live with a connection to the natural world that is present. It's current. It's an exchange of energetic experience that's always ongoing. And this is oftentimes a lot more. I hear the rain starting to pelt the roof of the dome that I live in a little bit more adamantly right at the moment. It's wintertime. It's January in the Northwest. Of course, it's going to rain. And we love it because it makes things grow. It's that the natural world is saying, oh, feed me the uh, recirculated liquid of this planet so that I may continue to thrive. And at an energetic level, this whole process of being alive has that potential to recycle those things. There's that Pluto saying, it's time to transform. You don't longer need that which has got you to where you are. It's time to get rid of it so that there can be room for something else to show up. You know, don't keep your plate so full all the time. There's magic out there sitting at the surface of life, right those edges, waiting to say, hey, we're here. Are you paying attention? You know, am I paying attention? I absolutely am trying my best. And I think we all could do just a little bit more of that. Anyway, today, that's the energy that's in thing. On Monday, Monday 9th, on Monday this week, Mercury. Oh, actually, what do I see? I see that right now Mercury's stationing. And it's in the direct mode, so it's no longer going backwards. 8 degrees, 8 minutes of Capricorn, and you can see down here that Mars is still at 8 degrees 20 of Gemini because Mars is not moving very fast. It's stationed at the end of last week. Both of these things sitting at 8 degrees of their respective signs are asking us to, because they've just come out of the retrograde cycle, to, kind of breathe a sigh of relief, breathe deep, take some cleansing breaths to make sure that the appropriateness of what transpired during those retrograde cycles is not just shunted off to the background as irrelevant, because those retrograde cycles are a time to rethink, to reposition ourselves, and to reconsider what is it that is most appropriate in the arenas of Mercury. How do we think and how do we perceive things? How do we talk to one another? And up there in Capricorn zone, it's been going retrograde, saying, are there matters of consideration with that whole scenario of the meaning of what can transpire in the group energy scenario that we might need to adjust? Mars down there in the sign that that Mercury rules, has been going retrograde for, the past month and a half, 2 months, something. And Mars is power, it's energy, it's an impulsive drive to do something. While in retrograde, it's kind of like you can almost sense a certain building of frustration, wanting to strike out and do something. And in what field? In the Gemini field of curiosity. I've got questions, and now that it's going direct again, perhaps it is time to look a little bit more particularly into where are those questions potentially leading toward. Are there going to be conversations that we're going to be able to inspire with one another that are going to go somewhere? Is it going to have that, that energetic drive it's going to, stimulate that level of curiosity that says, oh, I hadn't thought of that before. Maybe we should, chat about this a little bit. And Mercury right now going direct is giving its energy to that Mars, saying, yes, have those conversations, but caution, caution. Mars is hardly moving at all. Mercury is stationing, it's hardly moving at all. Don't rush into it. Take your time. Mars is saying, wow, of course I want to rush into it. Yeah, but, remember, cleansing breaths to make sure that you provide the appropriate space to one another to be able to actually consider what is being conversed about and not just yabber, 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 talk, 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 talk. Because in those kind of, exchanges where the words are firing back and forth like lightning, it's kind of like most of the conversation that's transpiring is happening within individuals' heads, and they aren't really listening that clearly to one another. And right now, as we go into the sign of Aquarius, group energy, I think there's an epitomal requirement to really pay attention to what is it that has brought us together and might be more relevant to allow us to continue along the lines of a scenario that we're working on to enhance a community kind of living experience. Essential Aquarius. Yes, Saturn is in Aquarius. It's been in Aquarius for, a couple of years. And soon in this year, it's going to be moving on into Pisces, but it's still hanging out in Aquarius. It is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So not to take it as, the heavy rule maker that Saturn is, that says, thou shalt not. It's more like an Aquarius is like, yeah, let's consider this. We want to do things that are, that carry some panache. They carry weight and have significance for the longer scenario. Because Saturn, after all, is Father Time. So Venus coming up to close to a dance, and let's see, that won't be, oh yeah, that is this week. Anyway, Wednesday, Thursday, you can kind of see that moon just charged right up there. Friday, the sun has gone into Aquarius, and on Saturday, the moon here, it's at 28, it's doing the dance with Pluto just before it crosses over at basically a degree every 2 hours. So we've got 3 degrees here. So in 6 hours, this is at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday here on the West Coast, and 6 hours. So what is that? 2 in the afternoon on Saturday, new moon. And with every new moon, it's always an ideal time to consider, what do I want to focus on as my intention for this next lunar cycle? Because that's what all new moons do, is they initiate a lunar cycle whereby they begin in one sign and the next new moon is going to be in, well, let's see, this one, because it's only at 1 degree of Aquarius, maybe right there at 31 degrees or so of Aquarius as well. That's something worth checking out. 1 month from now, I will let you know when we get there. For now, we have a new moon in Aquarius starting out, make sure that as you set your intentions for this next lunar cycle, wherever Aquarius happens to be in your chart, might there be some level of innovation that you can lean into for inspiration when you set up your intentions for this next month? Are there group experiences that you're involved in that are perhaps, coming closer to the surface, so to speak, for what is going to transpire during this next lunar cycle? That, they're on the table. Are the people that you're hanging with the most appropriate ones to be hanging with? This is a pertinent question to ask for an Aquarius new moon cycle initiation. And depending on where that Aquarius is in your chart, it's going to have a certain flavor for you. For me, this is 12th house. That's where all my Aquarius is in 12th house. And so I could get into a long spiel on a 12th house new moon. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to see if I can, contain it to uh, when a new moon happens in the 12th house, which people with Aquarius, the 12th house, that's when it's going to happen every year. The idea is kind of similar to that plutonic uh, factor that we were talking about before. This is the time of year to, uh, right off the bat, this is the time of year, new moon in the 12th house, to recharge your batteries so that you have enough energy to be able to make it from now until next new moon in Aquarius next year when new moon happens in Aquarius. And one of the factors that's probably most relevant to that is to make sure that those things that are no longer relevant in what it is that you potentially foresee as vital for going forward, that may have gotten you to this point, but yeah, they become tenuous. They become almost like a drag on you, weighing you down. It's kind of like, yes, they were relevant to get me here, but I don't need them anymore. And a 12th house new moon is time to jettison that kind of stuff so that you can focus your energy on making sure that this is an excellent time to do your meditations and stuff. Not that there's a unexcellent time to do meditations, but just that, clarification process that meditation brings about in setting the intentions and recharging your battery for the year ahead to make sure that you aren't, uh, pushing too hard on the energy frequencies that you are utilizing during this particular lunar cycle, 12th house I'm talking about here, to get to the end of the lunar cycle and say, oh my God, I feel like I wore myself out and I still got 11 more months to go or 12 more months to go until the next new moon in Aquarius. No, and I had a meditation about this, or a journey about this, a couple of weeks ago, and what's on my plate right now, it's a lot. I got, like I say, I've got a couple of different households that I'm kind of looking after because I have a friend who's got either superneural palsy or Parkinson's, who I've become the power of attorney for. And it's like, it's a lot of work getting her squared away in what she needs to do. And I've known her, for what, since 1968, a long time. And I've got my household that I live in right now that requires a lot of things as well. So a lot of things on my plate, but I put a task to my spirit guides. I say, like an automobile, I want to make sure that my alternator is functioning at its highest capacity so that as I utilize this battery energy to accomplish all the things that are on my plate right now, the alternator is making sure to keep that battery fully charged. And as I go through this process, I can feel like my batteries are still functioning at a high level. So hopefully, and with the assistance of all of us, because that's what community is about, we can accomplish this. I know, I'm sure going to try my part. Anyway, and Uranus, our last of our planets, sits retrograde. If we go ahead till Sunday, look at this. We got a little red S down here. Uranus is stationing retrograde. That means it's come to the end of its retrograde cycle, and basically it'll start out on Monday, direct, but still stationary, not going anywhere, still sitting at that 14 degrees of Taurus. However, we're going into a cycle of about, let's see, I think it's a month and a half, 2 months. The first retrograde planet that I have coming on the place is going to be, wouldn't you know it, in April. And it looks like April 20th. when Mercury once again will go retrograde. That'll be the first planet to go retrograde of all of our planets. And the next one, so you can kind of see we have a cycle now till the 20th of April, where all the planets are going direct. So what could that mean? It means, if you're paying attention, there's nothing really holding you back from the planetary perspective. So if you feel you're held back, it's got something more to do with you than it does with the planets. They're just having a conversation. And hopefully, what it is that I provide in these weeklies gives you enough inspiration and insight into what it is that you need to do in order to maintain a forward thrust on the soul development of what this life is really about. And so that's all I have for this week. A little short. I'm getting a late start. Enjoy the week ahead. You know, we're going into a new cycle. It's Aquarius. Be inventive, and don't leave out anybody that's in your group, unless, of course, they're buttheads, and then, appreciate them for their buttheadedness, and love them, because they're doing the best they can with what it is that's on their plate. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. It's a time for something new to be brought across and put on the table for consideration. Join that as we go into this week in the next lunar month. And so, ciao for now. See y'all next week. Hopefully, we'll see when that happens. I'd hoped to get this thing out last weekend, but too many things on the table. My plate is maintaining its fullness.